Good morning. Welcome back to Shasta Valley Christian Fellowship. We're in Psalm 36 this morning. And it's actually a relatively short psalm. It's only about 12 verses. And it's another psalm of David. He starts off talking about basically the iniquity of man or evil, corrupt people. Then after about 4 verses, he starts focusing on the goodness of God. And it seems like as he's focusing on that, it leads him into this like praise towards the end of it, where he's just praising God for who he is. So Psalm 36, starting in verse 1. Actually starting with the title, I guess.
You're starting where?
Starting with the title.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah. For the director of music, of David, the servant of the Lord. I have a message from God in my heart concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. There is no fear of God before their eyes. In their own eyes they flatter themselves, too much to detect or hate their sin. The words of their mouths are wicked and deceitful. They fail to act wisely or do good. Even on their beds they plot evil. They commit themselves to a sinful course and do not reject what is wrong. Your love, Lord, reaches to the heavens, your faithfulness to the skies. Your righteousness is like the highest mountains, your justice like the great deep. You, Lord, preserve both people and animals. How priceless is your unfailing love, O God. People take refuge in the shadow of your wings. They feast on the abundance of your house. You give them drink from your river of delights. For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. Continue your love to those who know you, your righteousness to the upright in heart. May the foot of the proud not come against me, nor the hand of the wicked drive me away. See how the evildoers lie fallen, thrown down, not able to rise. All right, a little short psalm. Any questions on it before we start tearing it apart?
Let's tear it apart.
All right, so start right off with the title. For the director of music, I've said this before, this could refer to an actual director there in their congregation when they get together, or it could actually be referring to God as the ultimate director of all music. And this is of David, and again, he's referring to himself as a servant of God, or a servant of the Lord. He's not, building himself up. It's more of a humble stance. And he's recognizing that this is a message from God. It's concerning the sinfulness of the wicked. And these first few things he lists, it's almost like a narcissistic person. There's no fear of God before their eyes. In their own eyes, they flatter themselves too much to detect or hate their sin. So I don't know if you've ever been around a truly narcissistic, I can't even say the word, narcissistic person where they literally cannot admit that they've done something wrong. There's something psychological there that nothing is ever their fault.
You'll always twist it towards your fault.
Yeah. And that's what I'm getting when I read out of this. And so I'm sure that whenever something's going on, this guy might be blaming it on God if he believes in God at all. We read on, it doesn't look like he even believes in God. But there's no fear of God in their eyes. And there's a saying that someone who thinks highly of themselves thinks lowly of God. So if you're constantly building yourself up, you probably don't have a very good impression of who God is. Verse 3, the words of their mouths are wicked and deceitful. Charles Spurgeon referred to this as two, as he put it, dogs of hell that hunt together, or hellhounds. Basically, the deceitfulness and the wickedness, they go hand in hand. The person who's using deceit usually has some underhanded intentions with that deceit. They're usually not wanting the best for you.
They want what's going to benefit them the most.
Right. When someone's using deceit, it's usually to get something better for themselves. They fail to act wisely or do good. There's another verse that talks about the fear of God being the beginning of all wisdom. If they don't fear God, they don't even have the beginning of any wisdom or doing what's wise or good.
That's kind of like our children of today. They just have no fear of God.
Yeah, if they're just being left to their own devices.
Yeah, whatever they want to believe in is on the internet.
We have this idea in our culture that people are basically good, and that's not entirely true. It's a child has to be taught right from wrong. They have to be taught what's right. You don't have to teach a child to be selfish or violent. They'll do it on their own.
Like you see these school shootings.
Yeah.
And kids are mostly doing that because they feel like they really don't stand out at all. And they feel like they're like have no meaning. And they just like to go out as and be remembered in some way. And usually the dramatic is much more memorable.
Yeah. Well, they see people get attention for doing it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Verse 4, even on their beds they plot evil. They commit themselves to a sinful course and do not reject what is wrong. So these guys that he's talking about, they lay in bed, they lay awake at night trying to figure out new ways of doing evil or how to. They may not see it that way. They might see it as how they can make things better for themselves, but it usually involves doing something bad to someone else.
It's amazing how desperate we can be for attention.
Yeah.
That's just so hard to believe that they can't see. That they're not doing any good. They're not trying to help people.
And that could come down to just people getting further and further away from God. We don't teach our kids about God and what's right and wrong. We tell everybody, whatever's right in your eyes is what's right. And this is where it was leading us.
Love yourself first.
Yeah.
Everybody tells you, love yourself first.
Yeah.
Yeah, they definitely tell you that. It's like, if you can't love yourself, how would you expect somebody else to love you?
All right, so moving on from there now, he's going to shift his focus from the sinfulness of the wicked person to the goodness of God. It says, for your love, Lord, reaches to the heavens, your faithfulness to the skies. It's basically boundless. Your righteousness, I keep hearing a song when I'm reading this. There's a song that with those words in the verses. I can't remember what it is. Your love, O Lord, reaches to the heavens. Yeah, anyway.
Do a Google.
Yeah. I know I've sung that song in church before. Verse 6, your righteousness is like the highest mountains, your justice like the great deep. You, Lord, preserve both people and animals. So again, he's focusing on the goodness of God, his love, his righteousness, his justice, and it's basically unbound. One commentator I was listening to, he was talking about this trench. I think it's in the Pacific. It's not the Mariana, it's a different one. But if you took the tallest mountain in the world, this one I keep climbing.
McKinley?
No, in the world.
Everest.
Mount Everest. If you took Mount Everest and put it in this trench, there would still be a mile of water above the peak of it. That's how deep this trench is. So again, what he's saying here is God's love and justice, it's without bounds. There's no end to it, really.
His love and his justice?
His love, his justice, his mercy. Yeah, he's focusing on the goodness of God. So you, Lord, preserve both people and animals. It's really interesting that he adds the animals into this too. Especially back in that time, animals were not held in very high regard.
There's sacrifices, right?
Well, yeah, but the Jewish people, I don't know of any other cultures, they actually practice humane slaughtering techniques, where the other cultures were pretty brutal in what they did with the animals, like because they didn't have any refrigeration, so they just basically cut pieces of meat off the animal while it's still alive.
Oh, God.
And there were laws against that in the Bible. So,
No, I think since then, because there was no refrigeration, they usually would coat them in salt for preservation.
They could do that too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But God looks out for the animals too. It's not just people. He's looking out. He sees all living things. And Jesus tells us that, even the sparrows are important to him. These little minute creatures we don't think a whole lot of, they're important to God. I lost my place. Verse 7. How priceless is your unfailing love, O God. People take refuge in the shadow of your wings. The majority of the commentators that I looked into on this, they refer to it as like a mother hen with little chicks under her wings. That's kind of what we get the idea of. But I've raised chickens, and there's one thing I've noticed. In order for the chick to be under the mother's wing, it has to be close to the mother. Her wing doesn't reach clear across the chicken yard to get the chicken, right? If we want to be under the shelter of God and his protection, we need to be staying close to God, not trying to go off on our own. Because there's always some critter out there trying to scoop you up.
Dangerous place to be. Yeah.
Oh, mother hens are wonderful.
Yeah. It is really cute to see some little chick, like some mother, like be all fluffed up, looking all fat and happy, and this little chick will poke its head out or something.
Yeah, she'll even protect the chick from dad.
Verse 8, they feast on the abundance of your house, and you give them drink from your river of delights. And who is this? The people who are taking refuge in his wings, the people who are staying close to him. And what are they doing? They're feasting on the abundance of God's house. So you think of it as like a family place. When we have a family home, a lot of times the kids will feel like everything in the house is theirs. Well, the same thing with us. We're children of God. We take part, we can claim ownership in the things of God's kingdom. And notice here about the delights. It doesn't say that we get just a little taste of his delights. We drink from the river of his delights. We can drink all we want to. There's no ending to it.
That's cool.
For with you is the fountain of life. In your light we see light. Of course, Jesus, the author of all life, so yeah, he's the fountain of life there. In your light we see light. I read this and I thought about a time back when I was making microchips. I was working on a piece of equipment with an engineer, and it had these weird lamps in it. And he was testing them. And he only turned it on to like 10% power, and it got super bright. I said, how bright will these things get? He goes, turn around and look at that wall. Don't look at the thing. So I did. I turned around. He wasn't looking at it either. He just turned it up. I think it got like 75% power, and the whole room got so bright that we could, it's like, okay, that's enough.
Really?
Yeah. So in God's light, though, we see light. We see through him. I should bring that out too. David's contrasting the wickedness of people with the goodness of God. And he's basically bringing this wickedness out into the light, if you will. Because a lot of times we can look at something, if you got a dimly lit closet or something, you might think that something's clean, but you pull it out and you realize it's covered in dust or what have you once you get out in the light. Well, the same thing. A lot of this wickedness may not sound so bad until you compare it to the goodness of God. And then you're like, wow, that's really bad. Verse 10. Continue your love to those who know you, your righteousness to the upright in heart. Pretty basic. He just wants God to keep loving his people. May the foot of the proud not come against me, nor the hand of the wicked drive me away. He's asking for God to protect him from these wicked people. And he finishes off. It's kind of weird. He finishes off and says, see how the evildoers lie fallen, thrown down, not able to rise. We got to remember that these people are facing in the future something horrible. Something as bad is going to happen. It might happen like tomorrow to them. It might happen after they die. There's something bad that's going to happen. They will be repaid for what they're doing. God will not let that go unresolved.
That's why it says somewhere like not to be jealous of what they have now, because this is all they're ever going to have.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, if a person's living a really rich life and they got it dishonestly, we probably should pity them, because what they think is good is going to come to an end. And it'll be really hard. Anyway, let's just remember to focus, though, on the goodness of God. We'll stay in the shadow of his wings. We'll keep drinking from the river of his delights. Any questions? It was a really short one. That's a really short sermon today.
It really reminds me of, how if you focus on God, your problems will get smaller. But you just got to remember to keep your eyes on him.
Right.
Because you look away and then all of a sudden your problems are just overwhelming and you can't handle life anymore. Your problems are too big.
And I don't know if
That sounds like Peter walking on water.
A little bit.
Yeah.
How do you get past it? I am so down right now. It's just
Focus.
I have nothing in my soul. I'm just sad.
Focus on God. Start talking to God, praying to God. Try to spend time with God. And these problems that you're feeling, they're going to kind of drift off, because you're not going to be focusing on them anymore. And keep your heart open.
Isn't there a place where it says,
It was
like,
just a season.
it makes the mountains of your life seem like tiny pebbles? I'm trying to remember.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had another thought, but I lost it. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, I guess that makes three thoughts I had.
What I'm hearing also from this is take of his goodness, spend time under his wings, spend time in his light,
Right.
spend time.
Draw close to him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the healing is. We have to spend time close to the Lord in order to be healed from the darkness. Come out in light.
Yeah. I do think that it'll, I don't know what the right word is. Like, it'll come into us and basically push all wickedness out.
Yes. I think so.
I'm kind of wondering too, the way this is written, if maybe David was dealing with something, and very particularly with a very wicked person. And as he starts, pinning this down, he shifts his focus to God, and God lifts that from him basically. He realizes, there's shelter with God, there's freedom, there's care, there's love with God. Any other questions or anything? I had a thought for you. I can't remember. Sorry.
Go on to the next one. Read it down.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
No, I thought about doing that because this was so short, but 37 is really long.
Really?
Is there another short one there close by? We can just read. Well, we have communion too.
Oh, that's right. Today's Communion Sunday. Maybe it's a good thing we finished a little early. Yeah, we're not going to have another short one for a while. That's right.
Does that sound good?
Yeah. If there's no other questions on the text, though, then we'll go ahead and just say bye, YouTube.
Bye, YouTube.